I should have trusted my gut the moment I stepped into that Airbnb. It wasn't anything overtly sinister, not at first. But you ever walk into a place and just feel off? Like something in the air is too still, too expectant, like the walls are holding their breath. I was just looking for a quiet weekend away, nothing fancy. Work had been hell, my social life wasn't doing much better, and I figured a solo trip to clear my head might be what I needed. I found this place on Airbnb, a 2-bedroom house in a small town a couple of hours outside of Chicago. The pictures made it look cozy, wood floors, big windows, lots of natural light. The price was decent, and the reviews were glowing, aside from 1 or 2 complaints about the host being a little particular about house rules. Whatever, I could handle a few rules. The host, a guy named Todd, met me there when I arrived. Mid-40s, thin but not in an unhealthy way, just wiry, like someone who works with his hands a lot. He had that friendly but wary Midwestern energy, the kind where you can't tell if they genuinely like you or if they're just being polite because that's how they were raised. He shook my hand, strong grip, and ran through the usual welcome spiel. "You've got the place to yourself," he said, leading me inside. "Full kitchen, washer, dryer, Wi-Fi's decent, but cell service can be spotty." The house smelled like old wood and faint cleaning supplies. The furniture was a mix of modern and antique, mostly sturdy, well-kept, nothing that screamed run down, but nothing particularly new either. Then we got to the hallway. 3 doors. One on the left, one straight ahead, and one on the right. "This one's locked," Todd said, pointing to the door on the right. "Not part of the rental." He said it casually, but his whole posture shifted just slightly. I don't know why it stuck out to me. Landlords lock up rooms all the time for storage or whatever, but something about the way he felt the need to specify it rubbed me wrong. I gave him a nod. "Yeah, no problem." He didn't move. "I mean it," Todd added, eyes locked on mine. "Don't try to open it." "And that?" That was weird. It wasn't a joke, the way he said it. He wasn't being light-hearted, like "Ha, don't peek at my secret room." His voice had an edge. A seriousness that made me suddenly hyper-aware of how alone I'd be in this house. I played it off with a chuckle. "Got it, man. No secret room snooping." Todd watched me for another second, like he was trying to gauge if I meant that, then nodded and clapped me on the shoulder. "Good. Enjoy your stay." And with that, he was gone. The first couple of hours were normal. I unpacked, made a quick grocery run to the little market in town, and settled in. The house was quiet, almost too quiet, no city noise, no traffic hum, just the occasional creak from the wooden floors as the house settled. By nightfall, I was feeling good. The place was comfortable, the couch was soft, and I had a 6-pack of beer and a shitty action movie queued up. That's when I heard it. A faint sound. A slow, rhythmic scratching coming from the hallway. I froze, heart jumping into my throat. The sound was soft, deliberate. Like someone dragging their fingernails down the wood of a door. The locked door. I muted the TV, every hair on my body standing up. The scratching continued, steady, unhurried. I tried to tell myself it was the house settling, the wind outside, anything but what it actually sounded like. Someone inside that room. I swallowed hard, forcing my body to move. Slowly, carefully, I crept toward the hallway, each step feeling louder than it should. The closer I got, the more distinct the sound became. Definitely scratching. Fingernails, maybe. Or something else. I stopped a few feet away, staring at the door like it might explode open at any second. My breathing felt too loud. And then, the scratching stopped. The silence that followed was worse. I waited. 5 seconds. 10. My pulse pounded in my ears. Then, just as I started to back away. Thump. Something slammed against the other side of the door. I nearly fell backward, a curse slipping out before I could stop it. My brain scrambled to make sense of it. A rat? No, too big. A pipe? No, the knock had a weight to it. And then, the doorknob rattled. Not violently, not like someone trying to break out. Just a slow, steady testing of the lock. I bolted. I didn't stop until I was back in the living room, heart hammering so hard I could hear it in my skull. I grabbed my phone, my fingers shaking, and pulled up Todd's number. I hesitated. What was I going to say? Hey man, I know you said not to open the door, but something's in there. I stared at the number, debating, when my phone buzzed in my hand. A text. From Todd. 4 words. Do not open it. I stared at the text, my skin crawling. Do not open it. Not don't worry about it, not it's just the pipes, not ignore it. Just a direct, cold command. And that? That made my stomach twist in a way that had nothing to do with fear and everything to do with what the hell did I just get myself into. I swallowed hard, forcing my hands to steady as I typed back. There's something in there. 3 dots popped up immediately, then stopped. Then started again. Then stopped. Then nothing. I sat there, phone clutched in my hand, waiting for an explanation that never came. Instead, the house went quiet again. Too quiet. Like it was waiting. I didn't sleep that night. I tried, I really did. I went through all the motions, brushed my teeth, turned off the lights, got under the covers. But my body wouldn't relax. Every creak, every tiny shift in the wood made my muscles tense. I kept glancing toward the hallway like I was expecting that door to open on its own. It didn't. But around 2 a.m., I heard something worse. Breathing. It was faint, almost imperceptible, but once I heard it, I couldn't unhear it. A slow, rhythmic inhale-exhale, coming from the direction of the hallway. I held my breath. It wasn't my breathing. It wasn't the sound of wind through the vents. It was something else. Something in that room. I turned onto my side, facing the wall, my heart slamming against my ribs so hard it hurt. I squeezed my eyes shut and focused on my own breathing, trying to drown it out. It was probably nothing. Probably. I don't know when I finally dozed off, but when I woke up, the house was bathed in the pale light of early morning. And the breathing was gone. I spent the next day trying to pretend everything was fine. I went into town, grabbed breakfast at some little diner that smelled like burnt coffee and syrup, and tried to shake the weird feeling still clinging to me. The town itself was quiet, one of those small, frozen-in-time places where everyone seems to know each other. People at the diner gave me curious glances, like they could tell I wasn't from around here. The waitress, a woman in her 50s with tired eyes and a sharp voice, refilled my coffee and asked, "You staying at Todd's place?" I looked up. Yeah. Her expression flickered. Just for a second. She didn't ask any follow-up questions. Just turned and walked away. That was the second thing that set me on edge. The third? When I went to pay at the counter, the guy ringing me up, mid-20s, red flannel, dark circles under his eyes, handed me my receipt and hesitated. "Hey," he said, voice low. "If you hear anything at night, don't go near it." My stomach dropped. I forced a weak chuckle. "What, is the place haunted?" He didn't laugh. "Just stay out of that hallway." By the time I got back to the house, I'd convinced myself it was just small-town weirdness. You know how places like this are, every town has its ghost stories, its urban legends, its don't go near that place warnings. Maybe Todd was just renting out a house with a reputation. Or maybe, just maybe, there was something actually wrong with that room. I wasn't planning on testing it. But then, that night, the scratching came back. At first, it was light, almost hesitant, like whatever was in there was checking if I was listening. Then it got worse. The scraping turned frantic. Faster. Harder. Like something was trying to get out. I sat up in bed, adrenaline dumping into my veins, my breath coming fast and shallow. And then the handle turned. Slowly. Deliberately. A single click echoed through the house. The lock was undone. And then the door creaked open. Just an inch. Just enough to see the darkness inside. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. And then, from that thin crack in the doorway, I heard it. A voice. Low. Hoarse. Almost familiar. It whispered, "Let me out." I did not move. I could not move. I just sat there, frozen in bed, staring at that sliver of darkness beyond the cracked open door. My breath was shallow, my hands clenched so tight around the sheets that my knuckles ached. That whisper, "Let me out." It hadn't been loud. It hadn't been a demand. It had been pleading. Like whatever was inside that room wasn't just asking. It was desperate. My first instinct was to grab my phone. I fumbled for it on the nightstand, my fingers barely working, and turned on the flashlight. I aimed the beam at the hallway. The door was open about an inch. Not wide enough to see anything inside, but wide enough to make it clear. Something had unlocked it. Or worse, someone. I swallowed hard, my pulse hammering in my throat. I needed to get out of this house. Slowly, I slid out of bed, my legs feeling weak beneath me. I moved toward the door as quietly as I could, every step making my stomach clench. I didn't want to get too close. I didn't want to see what was inside. But as I stepped into the hallway, I heard it again. The whisper. Closer this time. Right behind the door. Please. I bolted. I didn't stop to check. I didn't stop to think. I just sprinted for the front door, my bare feet slamming against the wood floor, my whole body in pure get-the-hell-out mode. I reached for the doorknob, grabbed it. And it wouldn't turn. My stomach dropped. I twisted it harder. Pulled. Yanked. Nothing. The door was locked. No, it was jammed. I whirled around, my breath coming in short, sharp bursts. The hallway was still, the locked door slightly open, the darkness inside swallowing any details of what was beyond it. And then footsteps. Soft. Slow. Coming from inside that room. I pressed myself against the front door, my entire body on fire with panic. Then came another sound. Something dragging across the floor. Like someone shifting their weight. Or something crawling. I squeezed my eyes shut, swallowing a whimper. Then, bang. The door to the room slammed shut so hard the walls shook. And just like that, everything went dead silent. I stood there, panting, my skin clammy with sweat. The air felt heavier, thicker, like the house itself was pressing in on me. Then, slowly, I tried the front door again. This time, it opened. I didn't think. I didn't hesitate. I ran outside into the cold night, my heart still jackhammering in my chest. The porch light buzzed overhead. The gravel crunched beneath my feet. The town was dead quiet, not a single sound except for my own gasping breaths. I didn't stop until I was standing next to my car, keys in my shaking hand. And then, my phone buzzed. I flinched so hard I nearly dropped it. A text. From Todd. Don't leave. I stared at the screen, my vision blurring from how hard my heart was pounding. Then, another text. If you leave now, it gets worse. I felt sick. My fingers hovered over the screen, my brain screaming at me to just get in the damn car and go. But before I could even type a response, another message came through. Come back inside. I'll explain. I looked back at the house. The front door was still open, a rectangle of blackness leading into the dimly lit hallway. That locked door. It was open again. Wider this time. Like it was waiting that I was not going back inside. I stood there next to my car, my breath visible in the cold night air, my fingers still curled around my phone. My whole body was screaming at me to drive, get the hell out, never look back. But Todd's text. If you leave now, it gets worse. What the hell did that mean? Worse how? Worse for me. Worse for whoever or whatever was in that room. My thumb hovered over the screen. I wanted to text him back, to demand an explanation, but I knew I wouldn't get one that way. I turned back to the house. The front door was still wide open. That damn locked door, now ajar. And the house itself just felt wrong. Like it was aware of me standing there. Like it was waiting for me to decide. I forced myself to take a deep breath. Then another. Then I did the stupidest thing I've ever done in my life. I stepped back inside. The second I crossed the threshold, the air changed. Colder. Heavier. Like stepping into a place I wasn't supposed to be. The door to the locked room was still open about a foot, just enough to reveal total darkness inside. Not normal darkness, thick, unnatural, like the light from the hallway refused to enter. I did not look in. I kept my focus straight ahead and moved to the kitchen, gripping my phone so tightly my fingers ached. My heartbeat was in my ears. I pressed Todd's number. He picked up on the first ring. Are you inside? His voice was tense, urgent. Yes. A long silence. Then. Good. Good. I almost started shouting at him. Instead, I forced my voice to stay level. Todd, what the hell is going on? Another pause. Then, finally, he exhaled. You heard it, didn't you? I swallowed. Yeah. You saw the door open. Yeah. His voice got lower. Did you look inside? I hesitated. My skin crawled just thinking about it. No. A longer pause. Then, quietly, thank God. I felt my stomach drop. Todd. What's in there? For a moment, I thought he wouldn't answer. But then, in a voice barely above a whisper, he said. It looks like people you know. The room spun. I gripped the edge of the counter. What? I don't know what it is, Todd said. But I know what it does. It learns you. When you stay here, it listens, it watches. And then it tries. Tries what? He hesitated. Then, finally, to be something you trust. A cold shiver crawled up my spine. I turned, staring at that half-open door. I couldn't see anything inside. Just blackness. But something about that blackness felt aware. You're saying, I swallowed, that thing in there, it talks. Yes. And it copies people. Yes. My whole body went numb. Because that whisper I'd heard, the one that had begged, let me out. It hadn't sounded strange. It hadn't sounded distorted or wrong. It had sounded like me. I backed away from the hallway, my breath coming fast and shallow. My own voice echoed in my head, please. Let me out. It had been me. Or something pretending to be me. I gripped the phone so tight I thought it might crack. Todd, I said, my voice barely above a whisper, why the hell did you rent this place out if you knew this was happening? Silence. Then, finally, a heavy, tired sigh. Because it's worse when the house is empty. I felt something inside me go ice cold. Todd continued, voice grim. I don't own this place. My family used to, years ago. But we learned, if nobody stays here for too long, it leaves the room. I stopped breathing. Every couple of weeks, I list it, Todd said. Short stays only. Keeps it contained. If people don't mess with the door, nothing happens. They leave, and it stays locked. He took a breath. But sometimes, it gets interested. My hands were slick with sweat. Interested how? Sometimes, it picks someone. The blood in my veins turned to ice. What does that mean? I whispered. Todd didn't answer. And that's when I heard it. From behind me. Hey. I froze. Because I recognized the voice. It was me. I turned my head, slow, stiff, like my body didn't want to obey. And there, standing in the hallway, was me. Same clothes. Same face. Same wide, terrified eyes. My own mouth curled into a slow, unnatural smile. Let's talk. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. Because I was looking at myself. It wasn't just some vague resemblance. It wasn't a shadow or a trick of the dim hallway light. It was me. Same clothes. Same hair. Same face. But the way it smiled. It wasn't right. It was too wide, the corners of my mouth stretched just a little too far. I felt my legs locking up, my whole body fighting against the sheer panic surging through me. My instincts were screaming at me to run, but where the hell was I supposed to go? It took a step forward. And that's when I noticed something. Its feet didn't make a sound. Not a single creak on the wooden floor. The house was silent. Let's talk, it said again, in my voice. Perfectly my voice. But I could hear it now. The tiny, off details. It was too even. Too smooth. Too rehearsed. Like it had been practicing. I swallowed, my throat dry as hell. What do you want? It tilted its head. The movement was just slightly too slow, like it had to think about how to do it. It started, then paused. Like it was trying to find the right words. To be you. A chill ripped through me, sharp and deep, like something had reached inside my chest and squeezed my lungs. Then it smiled wider. Let me be you. Nope. Nope. I turned and ran. I don't know if I screamed. I don't even know if I breathed. I just sprinted down the hallway, heart slamming against my ribs, every nerve in my body shrieking in terror. Behind me, I heard footsteps. Not running, walking. Casual. Slow. Like it knew I wasn't going anywhere. I hit the front door at full speed and yanked the handle. Jammed. Again. I twisted and pulled, my sweaty hands slipping, my chest heaving. Come on, come on. A breath on my neck. I whipped around. Nothing. The hallway was empty. But the locked door. It was open. Wide open. And inside, in that blackness, I saw something move. Not stepping forward. Not crawling. Sliding. Like a shadow peeling itself from the wall. I ran for the kitchen. I grabbed the first thing my hands found, a knife from the wooden block near the sink. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely hold it. I pressed my back against the fridge, my breath coming in ragged gasps. Silence. Then, from the hallway. Footsteps. Closer. Slow. Deliberate. And then, my own voice. Why do you look so scared? I clenched the knife harder, sweat dripping down my temple. The footsteps stopped just outside the kitchen doorway. I couldn't see it, but I felt it. It was watching me. Then, in a soft, almost amused whisper. Where do you think you're going? I snapped. I lunged forward, swinging the knife. It should have hit something. But it didn't. The knife sliced through empty air. And suddenly, Cold hands grabbed my wrist. I screamed. The grip was wrong. Too tight, fingers digging into my skin with too much pressure, like it didn't fully understand how hard a person was supposed to squeeze. I tried to yank free, but the pressure increased. I gasped, in pain. That's when I knew, it could hurt me. This wasn't just some hallucination. It wasn't a dream. It was real. And it wanted me gone. It leaned in close, and in my own voice, it whispered. I don't need you anymore. My vision blurred from the pain in my wrist. I did the only thing I could think of. I kicked hard at where its legs should be. I hit something. There was a noise, a grunt, sharp, surprised. Its grip loosened just a fraction. I wrenched my arm free, spun, and stabbed the knife into the air where it had been standing. And I felt it sink into something. The scream that followed was not human. It was a jagged, crackling shriek, like the sound of glass breaking and scraping metal mixed together. The air itself seemed to shudder. Then, everything went black. I don't know how long I was unconscious. When I came to, I was outside. Lying in the driveway, my head pounding, my wrist bruised and swollen. The house? Silent. The front door was shut. The locked door? Locked again. And my phone? I felt for it, my fingers numb. The screen was shattered. But there was one last text from Todd. Just 4 words. You need to leave. I don't remember getting into my car. 1 second, I was staring at my shattered phone, Todd's message burning into my retinas. You need to leave. The next, I was gripping the steering wheel, my knuckles white, my breath ragged. The house sat behind me, dark and silent, like it had never been anything more than a normal rental. But I knew better. And I knew, I had to go. Now. I turned the key. The engine sputtered. No. I turned it again. Sputter. Click. Nothing. My heartbeat pounded in my skull. Not now. Not now, please, God. I tried again. The car let out a weak, wheezing sound. Then. From behind me. From inside the house. A knock. Not at the front door. Not at a window. At the trunk of my car. I went ice cold. The knock came again. Slow. Deliberate. And then, my own voice. Hey, buddy. I froze. The knock became a scrape. Long, slow. Something was dragging its fingers along the back of my car. I don't think your car's working, it whispered. I couldn't move. Couldn't breathe. Then. Bang. Something slammed into the trunk. Hard. I jumped so violently I nearly cracked my head on the ceiling. The whisper came again, right against the rear windshield. Let me in. My hands shook as I tried the ignition again, my foot jamming down on the pedal. Come on, come on. Bang. This time, the whole car rocked. And then. Laughter. Not mine. Not fully. It was me, but wrong. Twisting, stretching, like someone playing with the shape of my voice, seeing how far it could bend before it snapped. I pressed the gas pedal harder. The engine coughed. The laughter stopped. Silence. Then. A new voice. A woman. Soft. Gentle. Familiar. Honey. My breath caught in my throat. It was my mother's voice. But she was nowhere near here. She was home, a whole state away. My body locked up. It spoke again, from right outside the car. Honey, what are you doing? Why are you out here? Come inside. I couldn't move. I couldn't think. It was perfect. Not just the voice, but the tone, the warmth. The way she always sounded when she called to me as a kid. But she wasn't here. And whatever was speaking knew that. Slowly, I turned my head. Through the fogged-up window, I saw it. Her. My mother, standing there in her old blue cardigan, hands folded in front of her, smiling gently at me. But something was wrong. The eyes. Too dark. Too wide. Too empty. She lifted a hand and knocked lightly on the glass. "Sweetheart," she said, tilting her head, too slow, like a marionette waiting for its strings to be pulled. "Let me in." I screamed. I didn't even realize I was slamming my fist against the dashboard until the engine roared to life. The headlights cut through the darkness, hitting her full on. For a split second, I saw everything. I saw the wrongness of it all. The face that wasn't fully finished. The mouth stretching too wide, like it was still learning how to be human. And the eyes. Black pits. Hollow. Endless. Like the door to that room. I slammed the car into reverse. The thing twitched. Not a step back, a glitch. Like it didn't know how to react. I didn't wait. I peeled out of that driveway so fast the tires screamed, gravel kicking up behind me. The last thing I saw in the rearview mirror. My mother's wrong face. Standing there, perfectly still. Smiling. Watching me go. I don't remember the drive back to town. All I know is I didn't stop. Not until I reached a 24-hour gas station with bright-ass fluorescent lights and people inside. My whole body was shaking. I sat in the driver's seat, gripping the wheel, staring straight ahead. My phone was dead. My wrist was bruised. And in the silence of my car, I realized something. It knows me now. It knows my voice. It knows my face. It knows the people I love. And worst of all, I don't think it's stuck in that house anymore that I didn't go home right away. I sat in that gas station parking lot for almost an hour, shaking, staring at my own reflection in the side mirror. Was it still me? Was it watching me from somewhere? I kept expecting to hear it whisper in my voice again. Kept expecting to see something wrong in my reflection, something just slightly off. But nothing happened. The gas station clerk kept glancing at me through the window, probably wondering why some pale, sweaty guy was gripping his steering wheel like he was about to snap it in half. Eventually, I forced myself to move. I went inside, bought a cheap burner phone, and called Todd. The line rang. Once. Twice. Then, he picked up. His voice was quiet. Tense. "Where are you?" I let out a shaky breath. "Gas station." I left. Silence. Then Todd exhaled, like he'd been holding his breath. "Good. Don't go back. Ever." I swallowed. "Todd, what the hell is in that house?" A pause. Then, in a low voice. "It's not in the house." My stomach dropped. Todd's voice was tight. "I don't know what it is." Nobody does. The Airbnb was a last-ditch effort to keep it from spreading. My mouth went dry. Spreading? Todd sighed. That house wasn't always an Airbnb, man. It was a trap. My grip tightened on the burner phone. For what? Something that wears people. I thought of the thing in the hallway. The wrong version of me. I thought of my mother's face in the dark. Todd's voice came through, strained and tired. It doesn't just copy you. It learns. The more you listen, the more you look, the more it takes. I felt cold all over. So, what? It's just out there now. A long pause. Then, soft as a breath. If it knows you, it finds you. My heart slammed against my ribs. Todd. How do I stop it? Silence. Then, the line went dead. I drove home with my pulse hammering in my ears. Every car I passed, I expected to see my own face staring back at me. Every voice on the radio, was it mine? By the time I pulled into my apartment lot, I was barely keeping it together. My wrist ached where it had grabbed me. My head throbbed. I stepped out of my car, and for the first time in what felt like hours, I let out a deep, shuddering breath. Safe. Or so I thought. I made it to my front door. Keys in hand. Just about to unlock it. When I saw something in the hallway mirror. I turned. Nothing was there. But the mirror. My reflection wasn't moving. My lungs locked up. I took a step back. My reflection stayed still. Then, it smiled. And in my own voice, it whispered. Found you.